there is a slight possibility of material that may be off-key to some viewers. Beast Brothers awards this video with an S for suggestive.
Well, should have seen this coming from the get-go. Wait, Mark? Are you out of your uniform?
It's very hot today, and I really wanted to try and get over my fear of getting dirty. Plus I was curious about what it's like being a regular dog.
Okay. I got some bad news. Delta Pause is another no-go. The copyright system prevented the posting of the video in the first place. You know, where's fair use these days?
The world's gone mad, Leon. People are abusing the rules and laws that they've created to suit themselves.
Well, there is some good news though. Big Brother Leon, he had a little chat with Nikki, as she had noticed that they'd been ostracizing and ignoring me lately. You should have seen the argument they had. They went back and forth, but Leon did not want me to fade into background cameos. So, as of last Tuesday, I am your official full-time partner for Work of the World.
Well, it's wonderful to have you join me, Leon.
Big Bro Leon also mentioned having a studio in the works for us for later episodes. He's not one to have friends and family have anything less than the best.
Good on your brother, always looking out for his friends, and his little brother pup.
Yeah, Leon's always had my back. Oh! Isn't Pokemon's anniversary this year?
Yes, 20 years in the making.
How about, since this is my first job as your official partner, let's do something for the anniversary?
Alright. I can't work undressed like this. Could you give me a moment, please?
I'll just play the intro in the meanwhile.
Alright, I'm decent now. Huh? We're live already? Oh, let's start again, shall we? Good day to you all. I'm Mark Mitchell, and welcome to another edition of The Work of the World.
And Leon the Pup. I'll be working on this series from now on, since Delta Pause was another bust.
It's a shame, because I know you were really looking forward to that. Anyway, moving swiftly on to a new subject. How about Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow?
This year marks the 20th anniversary of Pokemon. Talk about a longevity. And look how far we've come! Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and the list goes on from there. And that's not even counting spin-offs like Mystery Dungeon.
Alright, so we're focused on the first three today. In 1995, Nintendo gave us a brand new IP name, which after Super Mario has since become one of the best known RPG games ever made.
Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon! Pokemon Red and Blue hit the market with 151 Pokemon to catch. Now for those non-Pokemon fans who are curious as to why there's always different versions, over to you, Mark!
By tradition, every RPG Pokemon game has two versions to choose from. This is because both versions each have only half of the Pokédex to catch. In order to collect every last Pokemon in the game, players are expected to own both versions and trade them into one another.
In later games, the version differences included location designs, differing arcs and stories, and so on. But let's focus on how the games first started out.
In the first game, the Pokédex featured 151 Pokemon to collect. The cover of Pokemon Red featured Charizard, the final evolution stage of Charmander, and the cover of Blue featured Blastoise, the final evolution stage of Squirtle. In Japan, there was a regional exclusive release of Pokemon Green. The cover of that featured Venusaur, the final evolution of Bulbasaur. These three Pokemon are the basic Pokemon that can be selected at the start of the game. Tag, Leon.
Then in 1999, Nintendo released Pokemon Yellow, heavily based off the anime, thanks to Kids WB and its English translation in the US. Praise be to you, Warner Brothers! Yellow was a bit watered down due to the technological restrictions of the Game Boy, but it was still fun nonetheless. Now on to the story. Spoiler alert. Pokemon Red and Blue has you playing as a young boy in Pallet Town, aspiring to become the world's next greatest Pokemon master, which may I add is a very subjective title. What makes one a Pokemon master is strictly left to the imagination of the players. Thank you for that, Nintendo.
At the start of the game of Red and Blue, the player can choose between 3 starting Pokemon from Professor Oak. They are Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur. Whichever one you choose determines how your adventure will go. But beware, you have a rival against you. He will always choose whichever Pokemon can learn moves super effective against yours. In the traditional rock, paper, scissors style, fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. So for example, if you were to choose Bulbasaur as your starting Pokemon, your rival would choose Charmander, and likewise.
That brings up a very old fan-made philosophy. Many, myself included, believe that the very first Pokemon or type you get, even before you get the games, will stick with you for your entire Pokemon career. Do you get that feeling, Mark?
Not really. I often like playing games over from the start and trying out each one to see how the game's difficulty is affected. It's a common fact, especially in the first generation games, whichever starter Pokemon you choose determines how easy or hard the game starts off, and more specifically when it comes to gym leaders.
What was your very first Pokemon, even before you got the games?
Good question. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good answer to that one. The first time I ever heard about Pokemon was when CITV announced a new cartoon coming to the UK. I believe that was in 1997, 98 maybe?
Mine was Charmander. Time for backstory! Growing up, my mom would get me these Welch glass jelly jars with Pokemon on them, and Charmander was the first one, and he and his fire-type kin has stuck with me over the years. Every team I have has at least one fire type.
So you picked the hard one then. I mentioned that because as I was saying about gym leaders earlier in the first generation games, the first 2 gym leaders use rock and water types respectively. Charmander has little effect against Brock and is overpowered by Misty. For those who choose Squirtle, they're good against Brock but match evenly with Misty. And for those who choose Bulbasaur, they have the type advantage over both gym leaders.
I see. Anyway, the gameplay is basic, in which the player must search for, fight, and catch various Pokemon, explore Kanto, collect 8 gym badges, and ultimately defeat the Elite Four and the Champion. And you also have to take down Team Rocket.
Speaking of Team Rocket, that's something to mention about Pokemon Yellow. For those who don't know the difference, Pokemon Yellow is derived heavily from the cartoon series, in which Pikachu becomes your starting Pokemon, while Gary Oak takes the Eevee that you were originally going to be offered. Pikachu, just like in the cartoon, refuses to be housed in a Pokeball and so follows you around on the map. Other knockoffs include appearances by Jessie and James, Nurse Joy's and Officer Jenny's are closer to the cartoon lookalikes, and the chance of catching each one of the 3 basic Pokemon from Red, Blue and Green versions are also possible in the wild.
However, being the first game and still being experimental and trying things out, there are a lot of issues with the Gen 1. First and foremost, the finite number of Pokemon battles, as trainers will only battle you once each, the Elite Four and Champion being the only exception. Secondly, the game limits your inventory to a maximum of 20 different items, meaning any overflow must be stored in a PC inbox for safekeeping. And 3, the limited methods of evolving certain Pokemon. You would not believe how much trouble it is just to evolve a Kadabra or a Graveler in the early generations.
But remember, this is due to the fact that the Game Boy's technological and data limits weren't as great as consoles 20 years later, so the developers were much more limited as to what could and couldn't be included. Nowadays, unlike back then, Pokemon can evolve with more stones available and variable weather conditions. Plus, trades between human users were only possible via a link cable, as Wi-Fi was virtually non-existent in the late 90s.
True. Very true. I'm very lucky my sister got us a link cable. Anyway, another issue that many face is the Gen 1ers.
Gen 1ers? What's that?
Gen 1ers are those in the fandom who passionately hate and or attack any Pokemon game past Yellow. I've had instances of being smacked in the face and people noting me death threats on TV and art just for liking Gens 1 through 6.
Shame on those trolls who hide behind the internet. Speaking of which, do you think they'd actually do it if they met you in real life? Or are they just saying it to get a reaction out of you, just like with this review? I'd be very surprised if it actually happened.
Strictly the latter. I mean, hey, I haven't even been swatted yet, Anyway, moving on to a nicer topic, the best characters in my opinion are the gym leaders. They may not talk much, but they all have very fun personalities, especially Erica.
Personally, I can't pick out any individual issue of the game that makes them unique, except for the fact that they were a brand new series of video games which changed the world forever. So, how about some scores, Leon?
I'd say a solid 7.
And it's a perfect 10 from me. That makes our average score 8.5. Now, before we go, Leon, I have something I'd like to show you.
Really?
Yes, but let's go to my place first. It's getting late, and I don't want you on the road home when it's dark. I know you're nyctophobic.
Oh, thank you. Wow, these are comfy. And you had them custom made just for me?
Yes, it's part of my latest job, an on-call daycare.
On-call daycare? I know you're a Paw Patrol pup like me, but...
Wait, Leon, that reminds me. You haven't seen my new collar yet.
A shiny new collar? Looks expensive.
Oh, it was. The seller told me that it will allow me to become a human being.
I'm sorry, there may be a little wax in my ears. Sounded like you said human.
Yes. Hey, it worked. I'm human.
Am I dreaming or something? I've gotta be dreaming. This is impossible. And how did your clothes change with you?
They must have come as part of the package.
Well, I do have to admit, it is cool. But what do you plan to do with a human form?
I'll work things out. But it's great to know that I've got a form which I can switch between.
Another question. If you're afraid of infection, why aren't you wearing any shoes?
Oh, I wondered why my feet were feeling cold on this floor. No matter, I've got plenty of shoes. Give me a moment. That's better.
Well, it's time to hit the hay. Good night, Mark.
Good night, Leon. Oh, I nearly forgot to sign us off. That was Leon the pup, sweet little guy, and I've been Mark Mitchell. And we'll see you next time for another edition of The Work of the World.